Hey, everybody, welcome to Tutum Talk with Cara and Dan. I am so honored to have Dan Rochon with us today. Dan, welcome to Tutum Talk. How are you?
Hi, Cara. Thank you. I'm good.
Yeah,
How are
yeah.
you?
I'm lovely. I am cup runneth over right now. Like my brain's actually pretty full because I've been reading your latest book out in the world, Teach to Sell. So I'm doing my best to be present with you, and I'm so just chewing on all the amazing golden nuggets over here. So if I seem a little distracted, it's like, oh my goodness, I just want to you know, keep talking about this. So we're gonna go and do that, but, yeah, that's what's happening over here. This is seriously epic, so
That's a
appreciate
great
you.
compliment. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's such a gift to the world. So I know I've got you here on the show, and of course, I'm gonna sing your praises, and even if you weren't physically with us on the show right now, like, y'all, this is now going into one of my top recommended, resources for folks in all sincerity. So let's go ahead and share a little bit more about you with, Tooth and Talk listeners and get into more of the details and whatever you wanna share about this very beyond valuable resource. So, friends tuning in, Dan is amazing, and he's a TEDx and keynote speaker, sales psychology expert, and author of Teach to Sell: Why Top Performers Never Sell and What They Do Instead. Dan Rochon is on a mission to help 1 million people sell without selling by teaching them how to think through Teach to Sell. Dan is a master of neuro-linguistic programming and has helped thousands of business owners and real estate professionals create consistent, predictable income. Since 2008, he has lived by one powerful promise: no broke months. And I love that you've got no broke months in neon in your background. So, friends, if you missed that little detail, just scan over Dan's shoulder and check it out. As a sought after TEDx and keynote speaker, Dan teaches how top performers succeed without chasing, convincing, or high pressure closing. Instead, they lead with clarity, influence, and alignment. His Teach to Sell method helps people shift from selling to leading so they can grow their income in a way that is strategic, service based, and true to who they are. You can get your copy of Teach to Sell: Why Top Performers Never Sell and What They Do Instead, published by Simon and Schuster at www.teachtosellbook.com. Dan, it's sincerely a true honor to have you on the show. And my God, just yeah, so thankful for you to be here. Anything beyond from what we just shared in your bio? Is there anything else that you'd like to expand upon, or how you like to start this convo?
Really, it's just about, less about me and more about the audience. And really, I wrote the book because, I believe that most salespeople are just, trying too hard to sell. And, that's why people resist them. But when you teach to sell, you stop chasing, you stop pitching, you stop trying to convince, and you become the person who helps somebody else to solve their problem. And they see the path forward and they feel confident to take the next step with you if you're in sales. If you're not in sales, it's still a great thing to know is how to get your kid to clean their room, how to get your husband to put the freaking trash out, or your partner or whatever the case may be. And it's all about ethical influence.
Yes, I really, as a neuro-linguistic program trained practitioner as well, I really appreciate how you name, um, clearly and consistently throughout your text. These are amazing tools to be used ethically. So, when did that really come through for you? The importance of course, service and service with that kind of care and
Yeah.
alliance with values.
Well, I think it's just from observation. And, so it's something that, I've been in sales since I've been 8 years old. My my first business, I don't know if you remember those bubble gum things that you get like 10 bubble gum balls and a
Yeah,
wrapper and a little
yeah,
sleeve.
yeah.
And I could get them for like 50 cents for the whole package and then sell them for a quarter a pop. Apparently, I had a principal who was an anti-capitalist, and he shut me down. That was my first business shutdown, 8 years old, and
The
so
haters out there, I tell you, he
dude,
was just
I hear you.
jealous.
I think he was because I was
Yep,
making, I was making coin, and he was principaling.
exactly. Yes,
And
exactly.
so, but either way, so but I've been in sales my entire life, and I learned it. Like my own values, my own beliefs, my own perspectives is one thing. But I also, I've led thousands or tens of thousands of sales professionals, real estate agents, and all types of different businesses. And through the years, I've recognized that there's a lot of, there's like this thing in the world that like people don't like salespeople.
You can
And
smell it
it's
a mile away, my friend. You
yeah,
can yeah.
it's it's they feel that it's like so they're trying to get something from you, right? Like I don't like salespeople. I'm a sales professional. I teach this for a living, you know. But it's really about asking better questions, and it's about listening longer. It's about teaching simply and helping people to make better decisions, and then following up a way that feels human. And if you're in a business to get referrals, um the best referral script is just doing such a good job that that people feel proud to introduce you. That's the best way to be able to build a business. And that's what inspired me to write the book, and what I've discovered along my journey.
I really appreciate in your text and what you're reinforcing here is what I heard you say and what I was reading and soaking up was that fine art of selling to yourself, because then you're
Yeah.
not selling. Like, what would you wanna hear? What would you how would you wanna be approached? Does that line up pretty I mean, I know you just said, "Yeah," but what's coming to the surface for you as I
Well, there's a
hear
model
that
that I
there?
give in the book called the CPI communication model. And that stands for consistent, predictable income. So, if you're in the audience right now, write this down because I'm going to give you a model that you can, like, how can you ethically influence, right? And I'll talk about like the difference between ethical influence and manipulation here in a bit. But the CPI communication model is 3 steps. Step number one is to be in rapport. Now, when you hear rapport, so many people don't understand what rapport is. I'm going to explain that in a moment. Okay. And then step number two is to ask adept questions. Those are the deep diving questions. And then step number three is to actively listen. So when we hear rapport, so many people just sometimes you get a negative connotation. It's like it just seems like this sales technique. And I think it's just that people don't understand what rapport is. And it's just rapport is just simply a connection of energy. Right? That's all it is. It's like you have energy, I have energy. We have the spirit, within ourselves, and when we're able to look at, Cara, the human, like there's a body there that you're in, right? But you're so much more than that physical being that I'm looking at right now. And so when I take the time to be able to connect with you energetically and to pay attention to who you are, then I'm able to then that's what rapport is. So
You
that's
actually
step
meet me where I am. Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and connect.
Are you open to a quick, note on that one? So, during my neuro-linguistic program, certification experience, my master trainer, Rochon Price, actually, she used the example of, like, when somebody's, like, yelling, rather than the soft whisper to try and get them de-escalated, you meet them, rapport is meeting them with that same level of volume. And that was so counterintuitive, but you're meeting their energy where they are. So if somebody's like, "I'm so upset," you're like, "I can totally understand how upset you are," and then you bring your voice down, but you meet them where they are and bring it down. What
And
are your thoughts on that one?
you're using your hands right now
Yeah.
I'm gonna all right. I gotta get back to that conversation. I'm
Okay,
not but
beautiful.
we're gonna go there,
Love it.
right? But I wanna tell you a
Love
quick
it.
story. We'll get back there for
Please.
your audience. We'll get back there. We'll finish that.
Yeah.
I came home one day from a red eye. I was doing a talk in California. I live in Northern Virginia, and I'm at Dulles Airport. And I get off the airport. I'm tired, been up all night, and I park my car in between these two vans at a 7-Eleven. get a cup of coffee. I go in there, I come out, and I back right into this pickup truck. First time in my life I've ever been at fault for an accident. And
Yeah.
this guy comes out screaming and yelling at me, just blah, cursing and yelling. I get out of my car when it was somewhat safe, and I put my hands up like this, and I just looked at it. So my hands up like this. So that's a defensive posture somewhat because I can protect myself a little bit, but I'm also showing them like, hey, I'm open to you, right? And I met his energy, and then I brought his energy down with my hands, just like what you just did. And I brought his energy down, and then at some point he snapped in his energy and he says, my God, that's not me. I'm sorry. And I looked at him, I said, dude, it's okay. I know that's not who you are. You're pissed right now. I get it. I'd be pissed too. But guess what? I got this. This was my fault. I'll take care of it. Like, I know it's inconvenient and I'm sorry for that. It was an accident. I certainly didn't do this on purpose. And you got every right to be pissed. And now we start having a conversation. Right? So could potentially have been a dangerous situation, but doing what you just said is, meeting that energy. So that is rapport. So rapport doesn't have to be like a nice energy. It can just is a connection of energy. Then step number 2 in the CPI communication model is to ask adept questions. An adept question is a question designed to be able to get to the truth of what is it that you're afraid of? What is it that's keeping you in a place of stuck? Okay. The best thing, and I want your audience to write this down, the best phrase that you could ever use in any influence is tell me more about that. What does that mean to you? When you achieve this, what will you get? What is it that you're intending to do and what's holding you back? Like it's really going deep on the question. Okay. And then actively listen. That's step 3 of the CBI communication model. So it's be in rapport, ask adept questions, actively listen. And when you're actively listening, then you're paying attention to the energy. I've been in real estate sales for 20 years, and there's been so many times where I've been with a couple, and I say to them, I say, okay, you want to write an offer that get accepted? And one partner says to me, yeah, let's do it. And the other partner's like, yeah, let's do it.
Not as convincing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a dead no. And when I get that, I always look at that second partner. I say, what's causing you to say no? Even though they verbally said yes. And not a single time have they looked at me and said, I just said yes. No, they then answer the question of what they're saying no to. Okay, so then that leads us into ethical influence. So I mentioned that there's a difference between ethical influence and manipulation. It's still persuasion, but the difference is one ethical influence, it's about you. It's not about me. Manipulation is about me, my goals, my ambitions, my desires. Ethical influence is about the other person's goals, their desires, their ambitions. And you're able to discover that going back to the CPI communication model through being in rapport and asking adept questions to discover what is it that Cara wants? What is it that she's afraid of? How can I best help you? What's her goals? What are her desires? And then paying attention to the energy by actively listening.
Yeah. I all of what you of course, it's reinforcing your text. So if friends are like, "Oh my goodness, he's going so fast," just go and get his book. Like, it's all broken down there, everything is very, straightforward, which I appreciate, and I actually named earlier this week so, book came out on June 23rd, like, "Whoo, this is launch week," amazing, just like
You
full
can hear
stop.
it in my voice.
We've got
Or maybe you can't because it's the first time. But I tell you, my voice right now, I am raspy as could be.
Yeah, no, you're doing great, my friend. You're doing
Thank
great,
you.
and I again really thankful that you were able to
I'm grateful to be here.
stay with
Yeah.
us, yeah, and be here with us on this. So what's really coming to the surface is that when I reached out to you, like, hey, here are my initial experiences with reading your text so far, and it's staying consistent as I continue to read through the text throughout the entire experience. Very much so, leadership uh, became even more clear for me when I heard John Maxwell share that leadership is influence. And so I think of John when I am reading your brilliant offerings. And then for the way you have written this text, So for all the listeners out there right now, with what Dan was just sharing and how quickly he was sharing it, to me, that says your passion, right? Talk about energy. You've got amazing amount of passion and love for what you do. And that right there, like, people will follow you when they can feel that authenticity. And you write about that so much throughout your beautiful book as well. And that reminds me of John Maxwell naming, and who I'm talking about is John C. Maxwell, right? Written about 80 plus books on leadership, like one of those pretty well known folks in leadership. If friends out there haven't heard of this guy named John Maxwell yet. So he teaches that leadership is influence, and we all have influence. So therefore, we all have leadership within us, right? And the way he writes his books are very simple, very clear. And he talks about how he gets asked at times why he writes so simply. Like, why doesn't he make it more sophisticated? He's like, what would be the point? He said,
Yeah.
at my true heart, the gift that I have is being an educator. He just so happens to do it in the way that he does rather than a formal classroom, right, like as a principal or whatever. So, and I just there are just so many of those connections for me with you and the way you write and how straightforward you make the process, like the lead generation and the tangible tools. So why was that important to you as you crafted this for the world?
So let me talk about leadership because
Mhm.
I'm also a student of John Maxwell,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
for me, and you're right, and we can agree that influence in leadership is influence. My definition of leadership is simply to teach somebody else how to think so that that person can get what they want.
Mhm. Mhm. And
Okay,
not, manipulation, as, like, true service,
it's
right?
again, it's so they can get what they want, not I get what I want. Okay. And so to be able to do that, that's why you're going to use tools like the CPI communication model to say, let me be in rapport, let me ask adept questions, let me actively listen. And so now it's understanding that leadership is sales. Leadership is influence. Leadership is guiding others to something that benefits them, not you. Now, if you're aligned with whoever you're leading, then as a byproduct of me helping Cara, Dan, I get mine. All right. So it's about finding like, okay, if you're providing a service or a good or you're helping somebody or it's just a relationship with with a spouse and you're like, well, what do I want with my relationship with my spouse? I want a happy relationship. Okay. So now, well, what is it that my spouse is what's she struggling with or he's struggling with? Okay. And then sitting there saying, "Well, how can I help her? How can I help him?" And then leading them so that they can discover. It doesn't matter that they ever look at you and be like, "Oh my goodness, you were so great. You helped me achieve this." That's not what it's about. Because when they do achieve that, then guess what? What was my goal? My goal was a happy relationship. And then that's what you get as a result.
And as you describe that, very real relational or, like, relatable experience, what I'm tuning into and that you name a bit in the text is, uh, the importance of vulnerability. In
Mm.
building that trust, and so I think more so in the text, I was tuning into vulnerability as you named fear, like, you have the opportunity to meet your fear and move through it, right? Like, you have a lot of opportunities if you're feeling stuck or whatever your current experience is. What does vulnerability play into all this as from your perspective?
I think it's about being real.
Mm,
It's about, what does it take to be vulnerable? You have to be honest with yourself, right? Like, and I'm not saying be honest with yeah, you have to be honest with the other person, but before you're honest with the other person, guess what? You gotta be honest with yourself. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday,
yeah.
and she was telling me something that wasn't quite right. And I know that she wasn't trying to deceive me or anything like that, but she just wasn't willing to be honest with herself, which caused her to not be honest with me. And I looked at her, I said, "Hey, would you consider being honest with yourself?" Now we have a relationship where I could do that and it's not offensive to her, right? Because you go back to that energy. I didn't say to her, "Would you consider being honest with me?" Because I know that she's not, I mean, I wouldn't say she's not capable, but she's not ready to be honest with me when she's not honest with herself.
Yes. Yeah, the classic, "You can't give what you don't have."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so that's how this technology, that's how it works because it's all about the other person. All right. And then if you talk about vulnerability, well, I could say, let's, tell me your darkest and deepest secrets. But if you're hiding that from yourself, you're not going to be able to be vulnerable. So vulnerability starts with looking inside. It starts with, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What am I afraid of? And asking yourself better questions. And being real, like, where have I been stuck in the past? You talk about my energy. I am fast paced,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's great because I get 10 times done, more than that, 100 times done, more stuff done than the average person because of my pace. But guess what? It's also a weakness. Any behavior can be a strength or a weakness. If the behavior serves you and serves others, it's a strength. If the behavior gets in your way, inhibits you, or harms others or gets in other people's way, it could be a weakness. So I share
Yeah.
with you a behavior of mine where I'm like, I'm a speed demon. I am a speed demon. And a lot of times that helps me, but sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's just recognizing where you're at. And I
Mhm.
think this all turns into vulnerability if it's recognize and say, my goodness, God created me, or whatever your belief is. Somebody created me. I don't know who.
Right.
Somebody
Right.
did. Okay. I
Yep.
have beliefs around that. And and we are all perfect, but you have to be vulnerable to be able to acknowledge who you are, good, bad, and indifferent. And I think the majority of us probably look at the good pretty easily. But the bad is something we may resist a little bit, but you don't even recognize it's the same behavior. It's just the way it's showing up and serving you or hindering you.
Yeah. Yeah. I as I'm hearing you share all those pieces, for me, I'm hearing it through as a Gallup certified strengths coach. Like, yeah, 100%. So that tool, and are you familiar with the Clifton Strengths tool yet?
No.
Oh, okay. So Gallup, it used to be called Strengths Finder. Does that ring a
Oh,
bell at
yeah.
all?
Strengths fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
familiar with.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. So this lovely piece. I mean, I've got my two of my favorite books here. All right. So this lovely piece right here, Gallup, in honor of Dr. Clifton, who created the tool, switched the name to update the name to Clifton Strengths.
Got it. Okay.
In honor of him, because when he came back from World War II, serving in World War II, he asked the pretty revolutionary question of, rather than study what's wrong with people, what would happen if we study what's right with people? And a revolution, right? Still revolutionary question. And so Gallup defines a weakness as anything that gets in the way of success. A strength is near perfect performance on any given task. And then the tool, right, helps us better understand with that universal language levels of awareness for ourselves around dominant. That's why they call them dominant themes, right? So what is the least amount of energy, and it energizes us from to operate from that space. So weaknesses aren't necessarily like your 30 to 34 themes that show up on your report. Weaknesses, to your point, to what you were sharing, are often our dominant themes without our levels of awareness around how they are showing, like how we are operating from that space. So one of achiever, and the bearer label for the achiever theme is work over people. And that is my example that I use in so many client conversations, whether it be full workshops or private coaching. The amount of dinner dates that I missed or were super late to, and recently I was reminded, planes, I've missed flights because of the one more thing. and that is that achiever theme, combined with a couple others, right? But, like, there's a responsibility theme for me that taps in sometimes, like, well, we said we have to honor our word. We said we were gonna get it done, right? So those elements, I just feel so called to bring that into this, opportunity for awareness. So if listeners are out there hearing what Dan is sharing, like, hey, it's important to be honest with ourselves. That Clifton Strengths tool and when working with a gout coach can really help in raising your awareness around that. And then I loved you bringing in the importance of honoring our own healing journey. And I am a big fan of internal family systems therapy. I don't know if you'd heard of that one yet, but it's all about parts work and really being having an opportunity to be honest with ourselves about, like, I love that you said get stuck because that's very much it. Like, where am I still operating from? Although I'm 48 and a half right now is Cara Nance, 3-year-old Cara is in full effect right now, like, she has taken the wheel and, and that's it, just that 3-year-old part Cara who, like, "No, I want it my way," and but I look like a 48-year-old right now, but my behavior from that burden part is really driving the train. So I and how that all informs our business, how it all informs our motivations. Are we really able to be in rapport with folks when we've got possibly all this going on and we don't even realize, like that iceberg, very popular NLP tool, right? What's under the surface? Because all we see with that iceberg is just that little tip, right? So of the ice. So I'm so curious how from all of these principles, how do you see, or what are you looking towards and shaping for those? I love that goal of that million folks, right? Million
Yeah.
folks influence. What next in your teachings? What are the next for Dan and the team moving towards that goal?
Yeah, for me, it's about inspiring and helping.
Mhm. Mm.
It's about helping, let I don't know if this answers your question, but let me you inspired me to share something
Please.
about my inner child,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I've given my inner child a name. It was easy, Danny,
Okay.
right? Alright,
Yeah.
so it's interesting because in my life, I was Danny up until I was 18, and then I went in the military and I became Rochon, and then I
Okay.
got out of the military and I became Dan. And
Right.
but Danny, that inner child, that 3-year-old or 8-year-old, he still needs a paternal figure. He still needs a maternal figure as well, and my parents are both alive, so I have that within them, right? But, I mean, as we get older, we don't necessarily have that same relationship with our parents as when we were that kid. And so for me, I've labeled Danny, and when Danny's a little brat,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I
Like,
know
you
that
have a
Dan
relationship with Danny, yeah?
Yeah.
Like, you 2, like, actually chat with each other and you have time to listen to Danny and right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and it's about understanding that there's this subconscious as human beings, we live through life the majority of our time on autopilot, and so but we don't recognize that, alright? And so I go in the book, I go through, like, some specific, like, here's some tools and resources for you to be able to program yourself so that you have a better first thought. We can all be in charge of, our second thought. That first thought, that's something that's sort of like
Right.
instinctive.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Instinctual.
Instinctive.
There you go. It's okay. You've had a really full week, so I'm impressed. You're still standing. I'm very impressed that you're even still standing. There you go. He's in the ring, my friends. He's in the ring.
And so, like, that first thought, that's your instinct, that's just like, boom, there's your thought. And then from that thought, you have a feeling. From that feeling, you take an action. The action gives you a result. And then the result feeds back into your circumstance, and that's the circle of life right there. Okay, so I'll say that one more time. So you have a circumstance, You perceive the circumstance through your senses, and then you filter it through deletions, distortions, and generalization. All right, which we don't really have time to go deep into that right now.
That's a whole NLP training, my friends. If you're intrigued, reach out to Dan for some NLP training.
All
Yes.
right, so you have a circumstance, you get your 5 senses, you observe the circumstance, you filter it, deletions, distortions, generalization, and then also based off your experience, your culture, your upbringing, your life. And then you have a thought, and that all happens in a instant.
Yeah, split
And then
second.
that thought, and I'll say it again, leads to the feeling leads to an action, the action leads to a result, and the result feeds back into the circumstance. Well, that's a closed loop. So now if we have this closed loop, like, well, that's no wonder why. Yeah, I've got a friend who, she was married to this guy who was an abuser and a drunk and a gambler and a womanizer, and she finally divorced him. And guess what? Next boyfriend, same dude. Next boyfriend, same guy, right? Repeat, repeat, repeat. Well, it's because we have that same circle of circumstance, thoughts, feelings, action, results. And so,
Until we make a decision, right? Like, so for
boom.
listeners who are
Yeah,
experiencing that, right?
yeah. And
Yeah,
so now, how do you get out of that loop?
exactly.
All
Right,
right. So how you
right.
get out of that loop, make a decision, understand that you can program yourself because remember, we're in that autopilot most of our lives. You drive to the store, you get a coffee, you get there like, man, how did I even get here? Was I safe?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
that
right.
reticular activating system. Thank you,
Right.
Raz. Got me
And
there
so,
safe.
all right. So you're there, right? And you, but you could change your subconscious that you're not even aware of by doing things like affirmations, visualization, prayer, reading, relationships, podcasts, listen to podcasts like this. There's so many different ways that you can program yourself so that you get a better first thought.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
guess what? If you still one last thing, if you still don't have that
please.
first
Yeah.
thought that is like something that you're happy with, we can all get a better second thought. So if you have a first thought that's like, that's not serving me well, or that's nasty or mean or whatever. Well, what else could I think about this situation? We all have the ability to do that.
Yes. Choose another thought. It's like a cloud passing in the sky, like, "Whoa, that's a pretty dark cloud." Like, "What's another cloud that I can choose? Like, what's a lighter, fluffy cloud that I can, put into my little pocket over here instead?" Yeah. Yeah, that we have agency, we have choice. Um, I love this I love this jam right now that we're having, like, "Oh, Dan, I could chat with you all day." Um, because you're reminding
It's
me
funny
and
because we just met just now. We have the same basis of understanding of human beings, not because it's scientific.
it is.
Right? Like there's studies on this where 2 people can meet and have a conversation, and there's a nuances of because you have different experiences than I do, right? We don't have exactly the same education, but there's commonalities in this conversation. There's knowledge where I can go and riff on something, you're like, "Yeah, well, that's because of this. Yeah, that's
Yep,
because of this."
yep,
That type of thing.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
that human
it's
connection.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah,
scientific, like, you can learn this.
exactly, exactly. And what I love so that changing of your default setting, like, when I'm in conversation with folks sharing exactly what you're sharing right now, like, yeah, exactly, and that this is based on science. This is not woo-woo, feely-feely stuff, like, man, I do my best to breathe in moments when I hear folks call what we are talking about soft.
Oh, yeah.
Like, "Oh, it's so not soft, and I'm gonna keep sending love to you on your journey because, whoo, yeah," and then refer you to Dan now because, like, clearly I'm too emotionally engaged just to be like, "Holy cats, how do you not understand that the folks who continue to leave your business, i.e. high turnover, is because of your, approach to this culture building and ways of being a human in your business, you see it as soft." So it's probably not gonna be surprising that folks will continue, like, that there'll be a bit of a revolving door regarding hiring.
Until you make a
Um
choice and
Exactly, you have a
yeah,
choice.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, Bishop T.D. Jakes offers it as, the default setting, I've heard him say, much like a computer, and we can reprogram just like a computer. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, okay. My goodness, so many awesome nuggets. Let's start to decrescendo this one here for us. I man, I know I just touched on it a little bit, and I'm gonna name in terms of socially constructed identity. So my master's was social justice education. So I do find it sometimes helpful to name like I identify as a white female, queer, openly queer, in the US, exactly like what my perspective and where I'm coming from. And so Dan, she, her pronouns. So Dan, for you, like I've got assumptions in my head, but in that regard, how do you identify real quick?
Well, I'm not queer. I'm not a woman. Uh,
Yeah, I figured you would like male. I was gonna say like cis male, white,
I mean, you
US
know what?
kind of
It's interesting you asked me that question because I don't really. You asked me my identity. I identify myself as a dad. I identify myself as a business person. I identify myself as somebody who wants to help other people, right?
right.
Like so, I would say like to align with the way you're describing it, I'll be a white heterosexual male, but that's not necessarily my identity,
Right, right. Yeah,
right?
yeah, hence social construction identity, socially constructed identities. Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I so I love shout out to dads, like, I love how you bring Maggie into your book, like, ugh, I just
Thank you.
wanna give Maggie a big ol' high five, like, ugh, man, and I'm so thankful that she
Maggie's my
has you
daughter.
as a dad. Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, friend, good point, yes, like, other friend that was a little teaser, like, "Who's Maggie? Go read the book, you'll find out." Yeah. No, but I'm so thankful that she has you as your dad, especially as you model healing journey and like, "Whoa, Danny's on the scene," and Maggie gets to learn from that motto, like, "Whoa, okay, good to know." Like there's a lot going on, and that's beautiful. That's part of the adventure in this gift called life, right? And I bring these elements up because I was having such and still having such a moment within myself of deep and profound gratitude for you and our conversation to help model that this is leadership, to really do the internal work and name like, "Yeah, no, there's a Danny." Like, and I have like, I have a relationship with Danny, and sometimes Danny is, like, really, really present, and I'm in spaces at times where that is seen as, just, not a helpful part of this experience and this role and this responsibility many folks carry and serve from, called leadership, and also for people managers, right? So I'm very thankful that we have this conversation to share with folks that, yeah, no, it's about the whole human. It's not just the P&L. It's not just the product. It's not just the pitch. It's about really honoring the full human experience. So it's
Yeah,
a
and then also,
mm,
in the book, there's 4 pillars that I go through in the book. So, we're pulling out pieces here. All these pieces in the book, I weave them together in a linear process, right? That makes sense. And so, there's 4 pillars in the book. So there's the first pillar, which we really dove deep into today, which is belief. Okay, because you gotta believe in yourself. And then when I say believe, well, some people hear is that's where you get that woo woo. Like, okay, because you're not given the tools of how you can believe in yourself. Right, and I
mhm,
gave you a couple tools when what I described before when I talked about the circumstance leads to the thoughts, leads to the feelings, the action, the results. That's called the self-coaching model. Okay, so there's like an actual model of that, right? And you talked about behavior, and you used Gallup, but before Gallup, there was Dr. Marston, who had developed the DISC assessment, and it was the first Harvard doctor the first person that I know of that really like put this in the paper and said, well, there's different behaviors that we have as human beings. but it's
Mhm.
not
Which
it's
is on
not
environment. Yeah, just
yeah,
really how you show up in environment versus Gallup is more like how you're naturally wired no matter the environment. So there's subtleties, but yes, exactly.
and it
Yeah.
is, and it's it's understanding, like, that they're all rudimentary, right? Because
Yeah, and all
even
tools for development, right? Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a cornerstone of my business that these are for development, not diagnosis. Like that's a really key again with ethical practices, right?
Yeah, and so you have belief as the first pillar in business, all right? And then the second pillar of business is you gotta go find business. Okay, right? So and so I give in the book, I give like, here's how you can find business. And then as you find business, it's like, well, how do I wanna sleep and I don't wanna work 24 hours a day. So how do I build the support around me, the systems around me, the people around me so that they stay, by the way, right? Because we talked about that as a little bit. So that's the third pillar is organization building. And then the fourth pillar, which we've touched on a few times, it's leadership. Right? So and which is helping somebody else to get what they want, to think, to know how to think so they can get what they want. And so those are the 4 pillars in that order. And it's taken the human behavior, which is all integrated in this. And here's the thing, whether you're interested in it or not, it's the truth.
It's driving the bus. Yeah.
Right. And
You're
so
on the ride. Yeah.
you can go and
Right.
you can be like a race car driver and you can know, like, if I hear this rattling, then I know that there's a wing nut over here in the engine that's not tight. Okay. And you're gonna be such a better race car driver when you start to discover like why this is happening. All right. You don't have to know about the wing nut to be a good race car driver. Okay. And you can still be a great race car driver. So you can get the concepts and build on them. Yet
It's gonna
when you
take you
know
to the
that,
next level.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. So all right. I am loving this conversation and in the spirit of you getting a little bit of verbal like throat recovery and all that good stuff. I just have a couple other questions for you and they're pretty general, but I love them. I actually they were shared with me by, another podcast guest, Mike Krushka, CEO of Baryons, and I was just like, "Golly, those are just really" right, coach to coach, like, when you hear a good question, you're like, "That's some good stuff right there," and it's so simple and so beautiful all the same. So, what are you passionate about, Dan?
Helping people, passionate about being a dad. I'm passionate about life. I'm all in. Right. I'm a few years older than you, not much older than you, but a couple of years
I
older
was
than
doing
you.
the math, I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah. I think we're a couple" yeah,
Same
yep,
generation. We were
exactly.
almost in high school together, but I was a
Yep,
little bit ahead of you. And
yep,
so, but I say that because 30 years from now, looking back, I'm gonna know I was all in. And today, as a 53-year-old man, I know that when I was 23 or 33, I was all in then as well. That doesn't mean I always got it right. That doesn't mean I always succeeded. That doesn't mean that there weren't challenges because there have been. But I know I've been all in. So I would say I'm passionate about life.
yeah, beautiful, and definitely feel that, like, that is
Thank you.
palpable, yeah, it's beautiful, and shout out to the Pac-Man in your office there, like, yes, keeping it real. Beautiful, okay, so what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to, I'm gonna pivot in my life right now. And for the most of my life, I've lived a life by design. And this is a very rare moment in my life where I don't know what's next. And I have some clarity on what I believe is what's next, but it's also, there's some variables that are out, it's not necessarily outside my control, but there's just a lot of unknown variables right now. I'm very grateful that I wrote Teach to Sell. I want to help. I want to help a million people. Will I help a million people? I intend to. And if I don't, I'll still be 83 years old looking back on my life being like, damn, I tried.
You did it,
And
you
I don't
did
like
it.
the word tried, but damn, I did
Right.
it.
Yeah, you did your part, you did your part. Yeah,
Right.
100%.
So I'm going to spend the next couple months really just having more conversations like this, getting the message out there, helping people to discover that you have the ability to do this yourself. And then in a couple months, then I think I'll have a better answer, like, with more clarity on what's next for me.
Yeah,
It's just, right now I'm at a pivot point, I know that, and I'm listening. I'm listening to the feedback. I'm listening to the world. I'm listening to the energy as I discover what's next for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I love reinforcing for any folks similar to you and I who are on board that um, it's really the divine assignment. So it's listening and tuning into what is for the highest good for all. And sometimes, right, that's not necessarily where where we thought it was gonna go. It's for the highest good for all, and to have that intention, I love that, that it's not ours to know the how, right? It's the what, like, I've got that million, right? Impacting those million folks. That's the what, alright? Thank you so much for the guidance on the how. So, love that you are also on that, learning journey. Last little bit here. What is worth doing?
What's worth doing is what brings you pleasure and joy. And I believe I don't know what's next in this life. We're at the end of our lives, really. Like, I don't know what I don't know the next when we die, what happens? Are we warm food? Does our spirit go out there? I mean, I've got beliefs around it, right? But all I know
I
is
as well, I'm with you, like, we'll find
yeah,
out. Yeah.
yeah, but all I know is this, is I know what I have today. I know who I am today, and I know that regardless of what happens next after this life, that this life, I'm going to freaking embrace it. I'm gonna love it to the best of my ability. I'm gonna be grateful. Okay, by the way, gratitude and negativity they cannot exist. They cannot coexist together, right? So if you have a bad day, be like, "Man, I'm so grateful that I got this day over," or "I'm so grateful that I learned this," or "I'm so grateful that I don't have to do this again." And you're not gonna be blind to the fact that you had a crappy day. It's just like, hey, like, instead of, boo-hooing, it's appreciating life for what it is. And so I would say what's worth doing is what brings you joy.
Mm,
What is what you're passionate about, what gives you energy. And that's my recommendation.
yeah, yeah, I love that, and uh, gonna add on a little bit to that because what was coming in was the practice of, alright, especially in the really tough moments, that such a simple question, "What is this here to teach me?" And then listening, right, to that
Yeah.
guidance, and so for me, I know there are moments when it's like, "Oh, this is teaching me that I absolutely do not want this." Like, that is abundantly clear, and that's
Yeah,
where I'm
right.
supposed to get in, like, "Awesome." I also then have joy, right? So, like, okay, then what is the next best step? Read Dan's book. Awesome, let's do it, right? Um, and then the practice of I heard this from Steve Harvey, and so for listeners out there, like, I know he can be a little controversial for some, and like, hey, doesn't take away his awesomeness, and here's one of those nuggets of awesome, and that is changing the word "I have to," like, I have to go to work. I have to pay
Choosing.
this changing it to get to.
Yeah.
Instead of "I have to," I get to go to work. Like, what a blessing that I actually have employment. I get to pay this. I get to spend half an hour with my children. I get just that one little simple twist. And for me, I feel it like the moment I heard it, I was like, "That's good." And then applying it, especially catching myself doing the have to, I was like, "Wait a second, I get to." And I was like, "Alright, I get to." And then if it's really gnarly, like, I get to only do this for 10 minutes, like a intense workout, or I was like, "I get to." There we go. So, tools in your toolbox, my friends out there listening. Dan, thank you so much. I really look forward to the next. And I'm down in North Carolina, so we're not too far from each other. Um, look forward to meeting you in IRL, in real life, one day, and giving you a big hug. I so
I
appreciate
would
all
love
that you
that.
do for us. Yeah, as humans. So I so appreciate you. Any last thoughts? Any words for folks out there?
At the end of my daughter, for the first 7 years of her life, which is, the programming stage of our lives, and I would tell her every single day, and I'm gonna tell you, the audience, to have the best day of your life, be grateful, make good choices, and go help somebody. And that's the way I'd like to leave today's conversation with giving you that, suggestion.
Perfection, my friend. Thank you. Yes. Ugh, chef's kiss. Chef's
Thanks.
kiss. Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, Dan? Bye. Hey, everybody. Oh my goodness, what an awesome conversation with Dan Rochon, the author of Teach to Sell. You know, you all saw that a couple of times there in the pod. It really is. I know I was saying it a few times. I'll say it one more. Very practical, straightforward. I'm really enjoying just the simplicity of tools and how easy they are to apply. What might not be easy. Let me reframe simplicity. So this is my recap here from our conversation, and this is a new little addition to not little. The next layer, if you will, the next level of Tutum Talk with Cara and Dan, exploring leadership in the everyday and beyond. And this is just summary time with yours truly. And so I'll finish that thought that I love that it is he offers simple practices, right? The simplicity of it. And with simplicity, it's not necessarily going to be easy. That's where the rubber hits the road, right? All those cliches and sayings exist for a reason. So I do encourage you to tune in, check out Dan's text, especially if you are an entrepreneur. I know he offered the example of inspiring your children to clean their room, right? Or your spouse, your loved one, your partner, your partners, right? That inspire them to meet you where you are in terms of what you are seeking, what you need in those relationships as well. Uh, and as I was reading his text, really tuning into like this is great for entrepreneurs, leadership, anyone who is asking themselves, what other strategies, what other approaches haven't I explored yet? Or, yeah, I heard about it once or twice. Or, man, that just keeps coming up, but I haven't actually done the thing yet. Dan probably talks about it in his text and that approach. And so that's why I'm encouraging. And it's really spoken from personal experience over here, reading some of his suggestions on how to approach uh, pipelines and conversion on said potential clients. What keep helping folks stay honest. So I really appreciate those tangible tools. There you go. Tangible tools on Tutum Talk. Say that 10 times fast. So that piece there. And I am now going to offer a little summary after each guest and model this first one, of course. The first one, I don't know, unless you're a robot or you've really figured out ice veins, like you've just got ice in your veins, there's something to be said about the first time and how potentially scary that first time is, whatever it is. And for this iteration of Tutum Talk, this is the first time. So this is me modeling what Dan shares in his book about meeting fear, honoring it for what it is, and act anyway. Like move forward anyway. The that little action, he actually uses the metaphor of the flywheel. I'm a fan of that one. I actually think of Jim Collins. I think he wrote it in Good to Great. It's a classic, right? There are so many awesome thought leaders out there who use the metaphor of the flywheel, that incremental action, just one push, one movement, one nudge on a consistent basis. And he kept using the word consistency in this text, uh, and a bit throughout our time together on the Tutum Talk show, podcast, whatever. How important that consistency is in getting that momentum of that flywheel Really at like cruising altitude. So this is me modeling, yes, feeling fear and do it anyway. So if you ever need an example or inspiration, come on back to this segment of Tutum Talk because this is the first iteration. And it was inspired by, encouraged by adding this little segment there. I keep calling it little. See, catching myself too, how I'm downplaying it. So I'm modeling for you. This is how that unconsciousness comes through in our behavior, in our actions, in our ways of being. I'm so grateful for this opportunity right now. Like, oh, check that out. I've called this next edition, this next iteration, this growth of Tutum Talk. I'm describing it as little, and it's anything but. This is uh, profound on many layers, and I wonder what's going on for you in your world where this might connect. What are you minimizing that actually is a pretty darn big deal? Like, what are you carrying out? What are you facing? What are you actually putting action towards that each time you do it, you're like, ugh, I so am not feeling this because I'm feeling scared to do it. And I'm going to do it anyway because I know it's moving me towards my growth. And so I know that there's that important distinction, right? If you're in physical harm, and it's not for your benefit in terms of growth, you know your truth. Follow your intuition, follow your heart, because I was just thinking like, well, I put myself in quite a few times of physical harm training as a goalkeeper for collegiate athletics. And yeah, I definitely hurt myself and I was growing in that process. So if it is the kind of growth that moves you towards accomplishing your goals. And honestly, being a collegiate athlete wasn't a goal of mine until I started to feel a little bit of success in the form of college coaches started to recruit me. And I was like, oh, is that even an option? Because my freshman year high school counselor actually shared with me his perspective that because I have dyslexia, I probably wouldn't be able to go to college at all because of academics. Essentially, like, not his words, and pretty much the message was that you're too dumb to go to college. Like the rigor is going to be too much for you to handle. And so when I was being recruited for athletics, my junior year, my 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old Cara self was like, oh, let's give it a try. Like, let's just roll the dice and see what happens here. And sure enough, the rest is history, herstory, zerstory. So that's what I mean by growth. Like, what are those incremental actions that you can take where the goal feels it's so big? And that's beautiful. Big is beautiful. How can you backwards design? How can you chunk it down into small steps, like small pieces, bite-sized, so you can chew on it, digest, and move on to the next? That's what I'm talking about here. Um, so if you need any support in that, I'm here for you. tutumleadershipcoaching.com. Tutum actually means safe in Latin because I create safe spaces to have tough and brave conversations. So if you're seeking space for those, support navigating those difficult waters, I of course would be honored to partner with you in those journeys, in that journey. So, um, last little thought on my conversation with Dan. We brought in Clifton Strengths a bit, and I'm bringing it up for listeners. I'm pulling up Strengths-Based Leadership, Gallup and Tom Roth authored, and the Strengths Finder 2.0 from Gallup, Discover Your Clifton Strengths. So a lot of folks know, I love that Dan, like in live moment, he was like, oh yeah, no, I've heard of Strengths Finder, but not Clifton Strengths. It's the same thing, friends. Like Gallup didn't mean to confuse everyone when they renamed it as you saw and heard, it creates a little bit of confusion. So I am a Gallup certified strengths coach. Uh, Expanding a little bit on my conversation with Dan, we talked a little bit about that ability to uh, produce. Just we're able to just go, 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 work, 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 work. Um, and accomplish a great amount. I think Dan and I are cut from a similar cloth in terms of Clifton strengths, and that is that achiever theme. It is one of my dominant themes. It's in my top 10. And as I shared on the pod, the barrier label is work over people. And so it's a great asset when we have that consciousness, right? When we've got a level of awareness when like, how it actually benefits us. So we're able to really be a pace setter on a team. We're able to accomplish a great amount. You probably have a dominant theme achiever if you wake up with, like, a to-do list in a healthy way, like, that actually motivates you to, like, "Oh, I now get to boom, boom, boom." Like, every day is a fresh start to accomplish. Um, and then I with clients and in trainings, individual coaching, team coaching with organizations, when I'm with them, I share that our dominant themes, I associate it. My favorite metaphor is Star Wars, the Jedi power. And thank you, Disney, for bringing Star Wars back into the mix because I was starting to lose some folks who hadn't tuned into Star Wars, and now Disney is just bringing all that back. So thank you to help me stay relevant in this conversation. So it really is like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader are the same Jedi Force. It is the same power. How you use it results in Luke Skywalker results and feelings and experiences, or Darth Vader results, experiences, feelings. For my achiever theme, my Luke Skywalker results and experiences. So, like being able to produce quite a bit of work. Folks identify me as someone with a strong work ethic. I hear that a good amount. Uh, Somebody that they can depend on a team because they know whatever whatever I've agreed to take on, I will complete, which also brings a little bit of my responsibility theme, right? They're not isolated in silos. Uh, but I'm gonna, I'm going to complete the thing. So that is the Luke Skywalker version where it becomes a bit Darth Vader is when I've taken on too much. So that responsibility theme, intermixing a little bit in those situations as well, and those moments where I've said yes to too many folks, and I didn't say yes to me first. I share that with clients as well. That for our friends out there who have dominant theme responsibility, often what I hear and see and have experienced myself is that we're saying yes to everybody else, but we forgot about the most important person to say yes to first, and that is ourselves. Because our cup runs dry really fast when we pour into so many other beautiful humans around us, yet we forgot to pour and fill our own cup. So at least recharge. So being mindful, and working with a Gallup certified strengths coach helps in creating that mindfulness of like, oh man, I keep doing this. I keep feeling exhausted by Tuesday and of the work day, and I have 3 more days to go of this. Sounds like you're overextended. Are you really tuned into what energizes you, like what truly drives you, and also what drains you, what depletes you? There are options out there, my friends, that if you don't know how to answer those, or offer insights, if you're saying right now, like, I actually don't tangibly know outside of work drains me, like, well, I have a funny feeling if we got on a call, and feel free to book a call, I'm here for you. If we got on a call and we teased it out a little bit, it's probably not all of work that drains you. There are probably some elements, and then we can identify what those are, and then how those apply to your dominant themes. So what truly energizes you, so like how you do your work, what parts are really, um motivating, and you feel fed, and you feel even more energetic after, doing that thing than before you started it. Versus, man, even thinking about it taps me out already. Like that monthly spreadsheet, I ugh, I don't even wanna, right? So tease those out and have more awareness around how to feed ourselves before, especially the draining moments, how to keep ourselves, our cup a bit more full going into those. So being more mindful and how, like, I have to do this monthly report no matter what. What can I do for myself to fill up my cup just a little bit more before going into that monthly report so that I'm not completely drained on the other side of that experience like I usually am. At least I have maybe like a smidgen left in me so I can actually enjoy a Friday night with my partner at the end of that monthly grueling experience. I have a funny feeling your partner will appreciate that too, that you're not a complete bear at the end of that they're used to. So, and then the only other piece that I want to throw out there from Dan's and my conversation is the strengths-based leadership. I'll talk more about this as the days go on. Just reinforcing that what Gallup discovered, it's based on 10,000 research and 10,000 folks from around the world. So I love that it's a global context. And they asked followers, so folks who follow leadership, basically what do they need from their relationship with leadership? What do they need from their leaders? And again, John Maxwell defines leadership as influence. So folks who they are influenced by, what do they need from leaders? And the data was really interesting that yes, money is helpful, job perks are helpful, bonus helpful. At the core, followers need what the data found, what the research found was that followers need hope, stability, compassion, and trust. And so I'll say it one more time. Hope. Followers need hope, stability, compassion, and trust. And so as we think about what Dan was sharing, as he uh, brings such beautiful simplicity to how to create influence and how to live from a space of influence, connecting the dots to strengths-based leadership. When you do this, when you have consistent habits, right, that hope, stability, compassion, and trust, some of those elements are natural byproducts, especially that trust piece, that stability piece. So when you're consistent in your communication, those are um, very small ways. It might feel small in the moment, and they are profoundly impactful. It helps put those deposits in the relationship piggy bank is the metaphor that I like to use. So just want to be even more direct on those connections to the Gallup experience as regards to relationships, the insights that you can glean from both accessing your results, your Clifton Strengths Finder results from Gallup, and then working with a certified coach. So I'd be more than happy. I would truly be honored to connect with you and navigate conversation, see if we feel like a fit. And if not, I am connected to a very beautiful and awesome network of Clifton Strengths coaches and multiple different disciplines of coaches. So if working on leadership specifically right now isn't the best fit, if really need to scale back a bit and have a conversation with somebody who's more aligned with Gosh, I'm trying to think of my go-to coaches, like, wellness. Like, you can't even think about leadership right now because your wellness, journey is in such disarray at this time. I've got a couple of awesome resources that I'm thinking of right now. You're like, ugh, my quality of life is just strengths, of course, would help inform that conversation. And we're going for a much more holistic experience. I've got a couple of folks in mind already. So those types of possibilities come from those calls. So go ahead and reach out. I'll be sure to have, as usual, I will be sure to have my information, my contact information in the show notes. There will be a Let's Connect link in the show notes for yours truly, for Cara and Dan. And just go ahead and select that link. Calendar will come up and select the time that's available that works best for you, and make sure that you accept that confirmation email. That's a fun little trick there for some folks who sign up using it's the Calendly platform, and some folks miss. I think it might go to their spam, so be sure to check out the second part of confirming your calendar invitation, your calendar selection on my calendar. And I would love to just have that conversation with you and see where the journey goes. So again, Karen Nance, CEO and founder of Tutum Leadership Coaching. Again, Tutum means safe in Latin because I create safe spaces to have really tough and brave conversations. So if you know that you need that in your world, or you're just in a world of hurt and you don't quite know where to turn next, chat. I'm here for you, friends. Okay? All right. You stay safe. I miss you already. I'll see you on the next one. Mwah. See ya.